Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson. Matthew Dickerson. Tech Talk. Sit back and relax. It's time to talk technology.
Hello, party people. Welcome to the hippest happening party spot in town. I hope you're wearing your dancingest techno party shoes. Welcome to the sick beats of Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson. And you will not believe our playlist today. Making family movies will never be the same again now that you can get your hands on an 8K 360-degree video camera. It looks like everyone gets to be in frame all the time for those home videos now. We're going to look into what it takes to spot an AI fake photo these days. How good do you think you are? And we'll tear open the latest update on drone developments. What would it mean if a drone could actually pick up a human? We'll let your imagination wander on that one for half an hour or so before we get to that story. But in the meantime, let's call in the Techno DJ with all the party hits. Welcome to the microphone, Matthew Dickerson. Get this party started.
All right. Well, the party was started last weekend. I was at the Melbourne GP, Melbourne Grand Prix. I have talked about it a bit of a Formula One fan, so I get down to Melbourne when it's on. And
great opportunity.
It is, yeah, and it's great to be there in amongst everything. I do love the technology. I mean, we do see technology in vehicles, in Formula One cars that then end up on vehicles. We don't have the same open wheel performance they do. But I love the fact that we're now in the new hybrid era, 50% internal combustion engine, 50% battery power they're using. And I need to give Oscar Piastri a call and give him a few tips because he got caught out by that sudden injection. He talked about 100 kilowatts of power. That was a bit unexpected in his Formula One car. And I was going to give him a call and say, look, Oscar, I've driven an EV for a few years. Give you a few tips if you like, just how to handle that power when it comes on board. But isn't that fascinating? You've got drivers, the best drivers in the world, the best drivers on the planet, and they get caught out by this sudden injection of power that an electric motor can give you.
It just surprises me that he wasn't a little bit more rehearsed for that.
Well, it's probably one of the problems now. Back in the old days, they could just do as much as they wanted in development. There was almost unlimited budgets. They would do practice session after practice session. Now, to try and keep the budgets down, I'm going to say the budget's down, there's still 120 million or so per team, but to keep it somewhat down, then they limit the practice session. So the drivers probably haven't had a lot of time on the track in these cars. And there was a bit of discussion. I know Max Verstappen talked about the fact that he doesn't like the new cars because you can't just race flat out. You've got to be a bit strategic. You've got to decide when to use your battery.
With your foot.
When to be regenerating some energy in your battery to then use it strategically somewhere else. And I love the Formula E, when the Formula E was going, and my son used to describe it as Mario Kart with Formula E because there was a spot on the track that you would run over as a strategy, as a tactic. You go over a certain spot on the track and that would boost your power to your car for 2 minutes. It might have been a certain period of time. I can't remember exactly how long. And so then you would choose to use that maybe at the beginning of the race to get out in front or maybe to try and overtake. So it's very strategic. And I remember I showed my son, he said, so at what point do they throw bananas out the driver's door?
Watch out for the red shells.
That's right. So I like all of that technology in the mix. And so it is a new era. Of course, that's the first race. Mercedes went well, fantastic for them, but that'll be the first of many developments throughout the year. We'll see that chop and change a lot because it's also new for all the teams. They're all trying to work out how to maximise what they've got there. But it is, I do like just being around that and just looking at the cars, getting to see the cars up close. Cadillac had their display. Cadillac's come back into Formula One this year, or come into Formula One, and they had a prototype of their car you go up and touch and look at and be right beside it. So just getting a feel for that and the way the wing actuator now works, just some of those little things with Formula One. It's all quite fascinating. But even the whole idea of the wing, we've seen some production cars that have had a little wing that's come up as it got into higher speeds and then dropped back down.
Now, this is as close as you're going to get to rocket science without actually launching, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, absolutely right, because the speeds they're doing, the aerodynamics at those speeds, just a subtle
very
change.
Fine tuning.
I remember reading, I think years ago, about someone who first decided to put a lip on a spoiler, and this wasn't on a Formula One car, just on the equivalent of, say, a V8 supercar, the racing sedans, and they had a little wing at the back, and they just put a lip, I'm talking about a 1 centimetre lip, and that made a dramatic difference. Oh, look at this. So aerodynamics at these sort of speeds, when you're talking 300 plus kilometres an hour, aerodynamics makes a huge difference. So anyone that doesn't like Formula One, I'd say, look, just go and have a bit of a look at it. You don't have to get into it, but just have a bit of a look at the technology there, try and get a bit of an understanding of some of the technology there. It is fascinating technology.
Amazing.
And absolutely the cutting edge.
Yeah, absolutely cutting edge for sure. All right, folks, time to charge your glasses with another ladle of that party punch, and we're going to get into our stories for today. Now, my wife was riding on a bus in Sydney last week, and being out of towners, of course, she was texting questions to my son, who now lives in Sydney, about the route and where to disembark. It was then that a helpful commuter leaned over her shoulder and started answering all the questions for her. And that, Your Honour, is why she screamed and tasered the guy before running away. Has this sort of thing ever happened to you folks? Maybe not with tasering, but have you ever had someone else's eyes scanning your screen while you're out and about? It's clearly a common problem. Otherwise, Samsung wouldn't have felt the need to come up with a solution, Matt. That's a true story about my wife as well.
And the taser?
Not the taser, though. But she looked over her shoulder and went, "Thank you," and then thought, what if this guy follows me off?
That's right. Have I just put my address in where I'm about to go to? It's fascinating, actually, privacy screens. We've had the ability to buy privacy screens to stick on your phone for a little while now. And I was in Japan about a year and a half ago, and I was speaking to an official at this particular event, and I noticed they had a privacy screen on. And I said, so have you put that on deliberately? Were you worried about people looking at your phone, or was it just the only screen protector in the mobile phone store when you went in there? And he said, no, I was actually worried about people looking over my shoulder, looking at it and actually seeing what's on my phone. So I have put it on. And they're pretty effective, but they're also a bit annoying. So I put one on my phone just recently, just because I wanted to try it out to see how good it is. And the main people that get annoyed with it are my kids, because they like to look over my shoulder and see what I'm up to. And they go, Dad, just move your phone this way a bit. So they're quite effective, but there are times if I'm trying to show someone something, I'm conscious of the fact that I need to show them all the way.
Yeah.
And is it showing the thing that I'm trying to show them? I turn it back to me. Oh, yeah, I can see it's there. I turn it back to them, because once you get past maybe 30 degrees viewing angle, it just becomes almost illegible, and then 45 degrees it's just a black screen. So they're quite effective, but I don't want it on all the time. Now, Samsung, every phone manufacturer comes out with a new phone, you're looking for that killer feature. Because when you come out with a new phone that you say, hey, guess what? This has got a better camera and a better battery, and buy it. It just doesn't have the same ring to it. I always find it amusing when you see the launches and they say, this is the best camera ever on one of the models that we've produced. and you kind of think, well, you hope so. If this is the latest model, you're not bringing out one worse than last year, are you? So it should be the best one ever that you've produced. So you're looking for the killer feature.
Yeah.
What Samsung have done with the latest S26 Ultra, so the S26 range has just been announced, you can now buy it or buy them. And the S26 Ultra has the privacy screen and a couple of things with that. You can turn it on or off. So first thing, I just turn it on all the time, or I just put it off all the time, whatever. Or you can say, let it be managed by some privacy screen aware apps. So on some apps, so you're looking at certain things like your bank account, say, and it automatically turns on in that bank account, or you can nominate different apps to turn on, or the PIN. I've always amused if I'm sitting there in trying to help someone out with their phone, and sometimes you just say, you hand it to them and say, put the PIN in, and they just do it right in front of you, and the next time the screen locks, you just put the PIN in. How'd you know that? Well, you just showed me a second ago. But
I pay attention.
That's right. But having a privacy screen that turns on automatically when it's, for example, your PIN, I mean, you should be using a fingerprint or a face anyway, but when you do use your PIN, then having that blocked, and maybe the numbers rearranged so it's not obvious where you're pushing your fingers anyway, that would make sense. So having privacy screen that's variable on and off is quite clever technology, and Samsung's pretty impressed, I think, with themselves. They've really plugged this particular feature. Sure, they've talked about their enabled AI or an AI that's not added on. They're trying to convince us that AI is part of the physical infrastructure rather than a software tool that's added on. So you've got to buy the phone to get the AI features, which of course is not correct.
Yeah.
But it sounds impressive the way they're trying to pitch it, because that's what they want you to be believing, that you've got to buy the new physical device to get all these wonderful software features. The privacy screen is that. The privacy screen is physical, so you do have to get that to get the privacy screen. But AI enablement, you can probably do that with other apps that you use on there. So they are better phones, they are better cameras, they are better battery, etc. But the privacy screen
and being able to turn it on and off.
On and off. That's the thing I think will actually capture the imagination of many people. Sure, you can stick a privacy screen on a normal phone, but that flexibility and the app aware, I thought was quite a good feature. That might be the new killer feature that everyone's looking for.
So when Nintendo Game & Watches came out in the early 80s, my brother and I were for a brief period the kings of the primary school playground, let me say. For a couple of weeks, we were the first to brandish this latest tech, and we were the biz. And then some kid brought out in his Donkey Kong with the dual screens, and we learned what it was to go from hero to zero. You can get more action on a bigger screen, apparently. So in 2026, the hunger for bigger and better gaming screens is still the same. People still want portable handheld devices, but Lenovo is leaning heavily into foldable screens now. Matt, it's time I reclaim my spot as king of the playground, I think.
That's right. Go and get one of these. This will make you the king, definitely.
So this is the foldable screen that we've talked about.
Foldables are getting to the point now where, foldable, we'll just chuck a foldable on whatever. And I talked about being at the Melbourne GP on the weekend, and my son was there, and he had his Steam Deck. So he pulled out his Steam Deck and had a look, and I went, it's not that big a screen. It's got a screen built in, but it's so much nicer playing it on a TV or even on a computer monitor, a big computer monitor.
Yeah.
But on a little Steam Deck on a handheld device, it's a little bit bigger than the old Donkey Kong days, so, but they're still reasonably small in my mind, and I'm getting older and my eyes are getting a bit furrier. But Lenovo has said, well, you want the portability, you want the convenience of that nice small device, so you can jump on the train for your commute, not have people watch over your shoulder, presumably, and see how you're going. No, just go to the left. But Lenovo have said, well, why not have the convenience of that small portable device, but why not have a big screen as well? So they've got their new Legion Go Fold concept. So it's a Windows-based gaming handheld, and the screen itself is normally 7.7 inches on it, but it folds out to be 11.6. Now, it's not too bad for a portable device. You think about a notebook, might be a 13-inch screen.
11.6 inches is still pretty good.
Yeah, so that's not too bad. So basically, it's a good, powerful device. It's got an OLED screen, so it's got all the specs and features you'd expect from
Knocks
it.
the hell out of a Nintendo Game & Watch from 1982.
Probably just about beats that in terms of its power. The resolution, 2435 by 1712 pixels, but 165 hertz refresh rate, so that's a good high refresh rate from a gaming perspective as well. But I just love the fact that you've got these bigger screen. Now, when you look at it, you can see the crease. You can see the obvious crease, which runs down the centre of the screen. So you know it's a foldable, but when you're playing it, you're probably not focused on that. You just focus on the fact that you can see
past
more.
it. I'm sure you would see past it.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the biggest problem with gaming controllers at the moment is they're calling it Ramageddon, but surely we can come up with something better than that. But the huge increase in RAM prices because AI is taking centres, data centres are taking so much RAM, and the large companies that are producing RAM are just going, we just want to put it up by, say, 20% this week. And everyone goes, okay, I need more RAM. Okay, let's put it up by 30% next week. And away it goes. So that's going to be a big problem. I think more of a problem than the screens is just getting enough RAM for all of our devices. But
with these foldable screens, do they deteriorate at all?
Well, they're not too bad. They do a little bit, but they're not too bad. I remember the first folding Samsung screen. I remember we got one in and we started playing with it. And after about a week, you could see it peeling where it folded. So it was a little tiny crack.
Getting a little bubble or crack.
That's right. But now they've done simulations of thousands of folds. They've got some robot that just folds open, folds, close, that sort of thing. But I think you can see it, but I don't think they're too bad in terms of durability. I don't think it's going to last as long as a normal screen, but it's still just that
you can
ability.
Look past it. Yeah,
look past it.
If you're distracted by the action that's happening on the screen. All right, folks, for the times when you needed eyes in the back of your head while you watched what was in front of you and also focused on the periphery all at once, finally, we have the camera for you. You'll never miss the big shot now. Matt, you're going to tell us all about this camera that does 360-degree spherical video in high definition. It films literally everything.
But it gets better than that. Not only does it film everything, in 8K, mind you, because, 4K wouldn't be enough when you're filming everything. That's right. 8K at 30 frames per second. If you really want higher frames per second, you've got to drop back to 5.7K. You can do that at 60 frames per second. And you can take your photos, 72 megapixel photos at 360 degree. But here's the cool part. It's got a selfie stick that comes with it, and you use that selfie stick, and this is clever enough to remove the selfie stick from the video. So it just, and I haven't seen the selfie stick. I imagine a green selfie stick so that you can just use green screen technology and take that out. But I watched some videos of people surfing. So they're surfing, they're holding this thing. It looks like there's a drone about a metre in front of their face while they're surfing. If it was a drone, you'd say that is the world's best drone operator there. But of course it's not. It's a guy just holding on to his selfie stick while he's surfing. And if you can hold your hand in such a way that it's not obvious you're holding it, I saw some of the videos of people where it was really obvious that they were holding out a selfie stick, but if you hold it a bit more subtly, you can't tell they're holding it all. And you get this unbelievable video up close, whatever action you're into.
So do we need to watch this video, this 360-degree video on a ring screen that goes around your head?
Well, that'd be excellent, but it flattens it out. So you watch...
Yeah.
So
and I
you
just
watch
think that gives you a skewed perspective.
It does, but it's pretty cool. But you can also change it. So some of the videos that I looked at, it was as if there was a video or a camera right in front of the person, so it was just focused back on them.
Yeah.
But you can also then do a split shot. So I could see some videos where I'm watching a mountain biker, their face, while I'm watching in a screen below that where they're going. That's right. So you can see, because it's just filming everything, you've then got the ability to chop it up in whatever way you want. So I want the front view or the back view. I want just the front view because I just wanted to get that, but I don't want to miss any of the other view. Or I do want a full 360-degree view. And I saw one which sounds a bit boring, but it wasn't too bad, where someone said bushwalking with a 360-degree camera. I went, bushwalking? I want surfing or skydiving or something. But I looked at the bushwalk, and what this particular person did was they just held the selfie stick straight up above them, a bit like you hold an umbrella, but he kind of just held his hands in a certain way that didn't look obvious.
Right.
So we saw where he was walking, as in the centre, so his head was at the centre, and then we saw the bush scene all the way around him as he walked through the bush. And I went, it's actually not as boring as I thought a bushwalk video would have been. But you had the 360-degree view, you put the camera up a metre or so, maybe a metre and a half above your head, and you're getting this whole view around the bushland as you walk. So it's where we're at now with not just the camera technology, but the processing power we can put on the actual camera. And that's what's happening here. There's a lot of processing being done. It's processing this on board. So when you download the video, it's all done. The processing is happening on the actual
And if you're
camera
doing the
itself.
Appalachian Trail, you can see that bear sneaking up behind you. Is that right?
If you're going to watch it while you're watching it, you can see, someone else can see
Someone
the bear
else
that
could see
came
the
up
bear that came up with you. Yeah.
Why didn't he turn around?
Or
James,
the Yeti or the Yowie or what have you.
It's getting pretty hard now, isn't it, to say, I saw a Loch Ness Monster, but I've only got this really fuzzy, furry image.
No, I want to see it in 8K.
That's right. With 8K now, it's much harder to say, I saw a really big creature, but it's real, but I've only got this furry, blurry image taken at 7,000 metres away. So, but yeah, check that one out. It's called the Insta360 X5. And as far as cameras go, video footage, action footage, just something different.
This one's up there.
It's absolutely up there. Yeah, it's very cool.
Well, here's a piece of tech that'll turn heads in the cycling world. Flat tyres on your bike, they've got to be annoying, and the current solutions for when you're out and about, they're okay, but they're flawed. Manual mini pumps are exhausting and they're pretty slow. A lot of arm work in those. Single-use carbon dioxide canisters, they're wasteful. What every cyclist needs is a pump that is small enough to be unencumbering so it fits neatly into a pocket, battery-powered and packing some punch. Matt, you know the heartache, you're a cyclist. Are we there yet with a pocket rocket pump here?
We are very much there, and it's interesting when you see sometimes an invention or a product and you look at it and you go, that's obvious. Why didn't I think of that? And sometimes you see that, and
sometimes I see it and I think, oh, that's too good to be true. It's probably not.
Well, one of the ones I think of is in the category of, well, that's obvious, is wheels on luggage. It used to be called luggage, I'm sure, because you had to lug it around because you had big boxes. And then someone said, we could put wheels on that. There's a light bulb. Now, the wheels existed. We didn't come up with a wheel. I think the 1970s was when luggage started to have wheels. We had the wheel before 1970. So it was an obvious solution with all the parts there ready to go, but no one put them together. This solution is a bit different because all the parts haven't been ready to go until the last couple of years. And you're right, cycling, I've raced. I used to race BMX when I was a little kid. I still race mountain bikes now. So I've raced bikes all my life. And the flat tyre, absolutely. I used to ride my bike to school, and you come after school, hot day, and you'd see a flat tyre, and then you see some kid laughing in the background. No, normally it's a legitimate flat tyre. But I remember at one stage there, I tried solid tyres. They were all the go. Solid tyres, but oh my gosh, were they heavy?
Right.
And they just had no give in them. We want tyres that got a little bit of give in them. It's almost just suspension before a suspension system. So they were hopeless. And then I've tried Kevlar linings around my mountain bike tyres.
Sounds like you've tried everything.
I have. I've tried a thing called Stan's No Tubes. That's not too bad either. But
so tell me about the Kevlar lining. That was still...
Well, so the Kevlar lining, you put Kevlar around the inside of your tyre. And so the tube sat inside the Kevlar still.
Right.
And that stopped punches coming in. But sometimes when you're out mountain biking, you get things coming in the side. So you'd still get punches then. And same with... I use a thing called Stan's No Tubes, which is a goop that you put in your tyre.
Yeah, I know the goop. Yeah.
But you get a too big a puncture and it still can't handle it then. So you're out right, I'm protected by this goop. And then you go, how'd that go down? You see a big stick coming in through your tyre. So I've tried a bunch of stuff and no, it hasn't really worked. So you still carry either a little pump, as you say, pumping away there, or the CO2 canister. And the CO2 canister, even though you talk about being wasteful, I agree. But the big problem with CO2 canisters is you get one crack. So you put it on your tyre and you go, and you go, oh, it's just off to the side a bit. Oh, I've half inflated my tyre. Oh, no. Or if you run tubeless, I run tubeless tyres in mine. And tubeless, sometimes you need a big hit of air. And if you just don't get it right in the first hit, then it doesn't sit on the bead, it doesn't seal. And then you go, oh, no, do I get out another one and try that? And then, of course, you throw it away afterwards. And they're cold. When you do it in your hand, all that CO2 being released from high pressure to low pressure, it's very, very cold in your hand. So this device here is something that has been wanted and needed, but the technology hasn't been there. So rather than the wheels on luggage, you needed a whole bunch of stuff to come together to make it happen. So what this device is a little tiny device. I would say, knowing that we don't like SI units on this Tech Talk podcast, about smaller than the size of a pack of cigarettes. So smaller than that. And basically, it's a little tiny piston compressor, a little brushless electric motor, spins at maybe tens of thousands of revs per minute, and then that compresses air in a miniature chamber, and then it's got a high-pressure hose. You put all that together, and it takes maybe 20 seconds to pump up a road tyre, as in a road bike tyre, to, say, 100 psi.
Yeah,
so all of that incredible action together, and you get a tyre that's pumped up. Now, it uses normal air, obviously brings in, because one of the other problems with the CO2 canister is that CO2 leaks out of your tyres quicker. The size of the compound is smaller than nitrogen, or most of the air that you put in is nitrogen. So your tyre goes down quicker than you would normally as well. So this just takes normal air, compresses it in, puts it in. There's enough battery charge in that little device to pump up a normal-sized bike tyre maybe 8 times. So if you have a really bad day and you get 8 punches on your ride, then you're still covered with that. Yeah. You just charge it up. So it needed...
That's a bad day.
It's a bad day, isn't
Stop riding through the cat head patch.
Yeah, that's right, you found some cat head patches and you're just going crazy there. So it's enough charging there to do that, but it's got a battery that we wouldn't have had available not too many years ago. The brushless motors, that's a real breakthrough in terms of how energy efficient they are. Even just the little piston chamber in there, the sealing of that and keeping that all working. So this device wouldn't have been possible. Now, the first thing I know you're thinking of is, can I use it for my car? Because, well, rather than have a big pump or maybe go to a service station, I'll just have this little device. The problem is the volume, the little piston that's inside is moving a very small amount of air each time it pumps.
You'd be a long time there and probably beyond the normal 8 inflations.
I reckon the battery would probably go before your flat tyre, but there's nothing stopping you if you need to run your tyres at 38 PSI and they're at 35. There might be enough in there just to top it up a little bit, because again, it's all about the amount of volume you're moving. But a wonderful little device, and I can see more and more cyclists saying, forget the pump, the hand pump, forget the CO2, carry one of these, small enough to chuck in my back pocket, small enough to clip on the back of my bike, and I've got something there that's almost as quick as a CO2 canister, reusable, not bad for the environment. And wow.
Like Formula One pit stop.
That's right.
One of those. Flat tyre, no problems.
3.5 minutes to change my tyre and then get that on in 20 seconds and I'm done.
I first remember talking about brain-computer interface with some students that I had about 20 years ago. Computers reading thoughts and responding to them. It was a lovely idea and it seemed locked away in a far distant future. About 20 years into the future, in fact. Brain-computer interface is most definitely here now, and computers are converting thoughts into written text and even speech. That includes tone, pitch, and even rhythm, all from a person's imagination alone. Matt, this feels like some real fun on the way with this, but possibly followed by some abject terror as well.
Exactly.
Reading thoughts.
I don't know if I want people hearing everything that I think all the time.
I know. Yes, your bum looks big in that dress.
Said no husband ever. So this is from Stanford University. They've got a new brain-computer interface. So it is using microelectrode arrays implanted in the brain, in the motor cortex. So we're not talking about one. Sometimes we've talked about before that sits on the outside of the skull.
Right.
These are going into the brain.
Yeah.
They had one person, 52-year-old. He's a stroke survivor. He's been paralysed for 19 years, and he could generate sentences on a computer screen by thinking them. And this is the problem.
Amazing. It's so empowering for someone like that, yeah?
Because this is the problem.
Just a restoration of power, yeah?
You have got millions of people worldwide that have got some type of paralysis, or they've got some inability to speak or move, but their brain is still intact. So they've got normal cognition in their brain, but they just can't get it out. And it would be so frustrating to not be able to say or do the things that you want to do, and you're just sitting there thinking all these things.
Yeah.
And imagine someone saying, look, we'll just stick some electrodes in your brain, and then when you think them, you can have them on a screen, and then maybe a switch to turn it on and off so that they don't send everything they're thinking.
Stop thinking too much.
That's right. So when we speak normally, we're speaking maybe 150 words per minute. It's kind of about a rough sort of accurate speed. At the moment, we're getting maybe 30, 40 words per minute. So it's a bit slow, probably a little bit slower than most people would type if they're touch typing, but not too bad. If I couldn't communicate at all and someone said you can have 40 words per minute, I'll take the 40 words per minute. And 97.5% accuracy. That's the thing that blew me away. That's fairly accurate. Now,
but yeah, one thing with the typed word is you can't necessarily pick tone and pitch, the meaning is conveyed in how you deliver a message. This is going to turn that around.
Yeah, that's exactly right, because it is reading your neurons. So here's the big thing. The implants I've got now are sampling about 256 neurons in our brain. Now, when we're talking like we are now, we're probably using, maybe I'm using 1 billion. You might only be using 1 million because you're doing it easy. You're taking it easy there. but we've got billions of neurons that our brain is using to make us who we are, do what we do, say what we say, all the rest of it. The big secret here is they believe if we start to get to the point where we're sampling not 256, but maybe thousands, maybe tens of thousands, maybe if we could sample hundreds of thousands of neurons, then we're effectively doing what the brain's doing. We're connecting this data together.
You could hear what your subconscious is thinking.
Oh my gosh, that's now getting way too scary. That's horrific. But it's early days. I mean, we talk about BCI a little bit, brain-computer interface a little bit. It's early days, but if early days means you can type at 32 words per minute, that's not too far away from getting people to be functioning members of society, which would be incredibly exciting if you had no function at the moment. And I don't think they're talking about this for average Joe Blow. They really are talking about it in the early stages for people that have some inability to use their hands or their mouth or a whole range of medical issues they might have, but it's not that far away, 10 years away, before it's just, let's go and get our BCI in and get that updated, and we'll have a few thousand or a few million.
And the step after that is telekinesis, where we get to lift things up and move it across the room through midair.
Well, what's to stop brain-to-brain communication? So maybe not moving things around, but what's to stop you and I at a party having wireless communication, which we've got wireless communication now. With our BCI, I go, James, look at that idiot over there. He's carrying on.
Why have we got Matt's word in my head? I'm trying to have a conversation with this person over here, and Matt's talking to me.
Quiet, Matt. Okay. it does start to scare you a little bit. So I definitely think you need an on-off switch, or maybe just an LED on the front of your forehead. So incoming signal.
This is opening a can of worms. I think we can all agree that it used to be pretty easy to spot an AI portrait of a human, 12 months ago even. They were a little too perfect, shall we say, even when the AI-drawn face contained, shall we say, a few imperfections. You know, you might have been drawing an older person, or AI might have been drawing an older person, and you could see the imperfections, but it still looked a little bit too perfect. Fast forward to today, I reckon it's not so easy. AI learns fast, and the human form is one that continues to strive to... AI is continuing to strive to get right. The question is, can you still spot an AI-generated portrait over a photo portrait? Can you pick the real person? Matt, apparently there are some who walk among us who are yet to be fooled by the Matrix.
They are. And I think if I said to people, would you be fooled by a deep fake? Would you be fooled by an AI face? I think there'd be some people I know who would say, I'm too smart for that.
Yeah.
I could spot a fake easily. Now, the results are in, and it's got nothing to do with your intelligence level. A whole range of tests have been done on people to recognise AI faces from non-AI faces. And if you've got an object recognition skill, that helps you distinguish AI from non-AI, not intelligence, not being aware of technology, not even being aware of AI tools and some of the ways that AI is used. You can be an expert on AI, but still look at a face and go, yep, that's a human. No, it's not. That's an AI-generated one. So it comes down to a specific skill. And so what they found was, broadly, people were in three categories. One, absolutely could spot it every time. Middle, maybe not. And then otherwise, no idea. And I'm convinced I've got a bit of prosopagnosia, which is face blindness, where I'll see someone and I'll go, I've got no idea who that is. I don't know if I've seen that face before, but if they had a badge on and it said James, I'd go, I know James, and I'd know information about James, but I wouldn't necessarily know from the face. And I've heard other people talk about face blindness as well. I don't think I'm terrible. I can recognise my wife still, which is probably a good thing, so that I don't go home with someone wrong some nights. So that's a good thing.
That's a good thing. That's a really important thing.
That's right. But I think that face blindness might be bad for recognising AI compared to humans in terms of images that might come through. And we know it's a condition. There's about 3% of the people that have this particular condition. And I didn't really think about it until I heard a podcast one day where they were talking about this person said that they look at what clothes people wear to see sitting around the room if they know them or not, if they see them again half an hour later. And I thought, oh, wow, that's what I do. I'm in a meeting and I go, hey, James got a blue jumper on and Mary's got a red hat, and then I'll recognise them by their clothes more so than by their face.
Oh,
and
really?
I never really thought about it until I heard this podcast and I went, oh, hold on, wait up. So, but again, it's about a certain skill. So it's this object recognition skill, not other skills that you think you might have. So how are we going to use
So what
that?
you're saying is you're not penalised by the fact that you've got this, was it prosopagnosia? Prosopagnosia.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Okay, so you're not penalised by that? You're
Well,
not
out of
cut
context, out of context is what I find is really bad.
Yeah, okay.
So that's one thing. If I see someone that's a person who works at ABC Factory and I see them lots of times, like, I know there's Mary that works at ABC Factory. And then one night I see them at a cafe, I'll go, I don't know who that is. And I remember I see you 3 times a week. Oh, whoops, who are you again? ABC Factory. Oh, yes, I know you. But in terms of this, I haven't done the testing for recognising AI or not. I'm just speculating here that I reckon if I can't recognise faces, then I'm probably not that good at recognising AI versus human faces, because I go, I don't know if I've seen that before. It looks okay. The nose in the right spot and there's a couple of eyes, a couple of ears. That must be a human there. But
Roll the dice.
It was fascinating that they've worked hard on this whole process just to see what people can do. And these people that have had this high object recognition skill have been used in the past for things like detecting lung nodules in a chest x-ray, detecting cancerous blood cells, determining sex from a retinal scan. So they've already identified these people before that have actually had this high object recognition skill, which kind of makes sense that they can also spot AI faces. But so for average people out there, don't be surprised if we get fooled by AI thinking that's a real face.
Goodness me.
All a bit scary.
Potholes are a curse on our roads. No big headline there. You'd be hard-pressed to find anyone to disagree. And it seems like any time there's a decent rainfall, there's a new crop of booby-trapping potholes on a roadway near you. Patching them can be slow, costly and labour-intensive. And it could be a full-time operation for many local councils. But a new technology is hitting the streets, literally, and may speed up the process as much as 7 times faster. Matt, stand back. The automated pothole patcher may be coming to a town near you.
Yeah, it is cool because this is a problem. 55 million potholes across the United States. So this story comes out of the US. That's a lot of potholes. They've got a lot of roads as well.
Get busy.
But wherever you go, you talk to anyone, what do you want your local government to do for you? What do you want government to do? Fix the potholes. That's right. That seems to be the number one thing because most people are on the roads at some time, most days.
Yeah.
So it's obvious when we have potholes, we feel them, we see them, we have to repair our car, we fix our flat tyre, whatever it might be. So we're acutely aware of them. Whereas if you haven't been in hospital for a couple of years, you don't know if the hospital system's good or bad. So it's not number one on your priority list. But potholes, we want those fixed. So at the moment, the technology that we have is pretty basic. They see a pothole on the road, they have a crew turn up, they have some cold mix in the back and they shovel it in and whack it down a bit and on they go. And not surprisingly, they come back a month later and that is now a bigger hole in the ground where it used to be a pothole, especially if there's a bit of rain around. So they've got a new device, a new truck called the Simline P5. It uses Durapatcher technology. So there's a couple of things in this. One is it's a automated system that one person can run. It's basically if you've got a kid that's good with video games, get a job for them in this sort of role because they basically use a video controller to move the arm and it blasts out with compressed air any debris that might be in that hole. So you're getting a good clean surface. And then you use Durapatcher, which is this technology, this substance that squirts into there, which is a hot substance but ready to drive on within 2 minutes. So it's fast. You don't have to block the road off for very long. You're not getting people out there on the road with a shovel whacking down a hole. You're basically driving along, blasting it, keep going on to the next one, blast it clean, blast in some of this Durapatcher, and on you move. So we're getting better. We've talked about G-Pave before, which is a substance that when you're building the road in the first place, so it bonds it together stronger, so you're less likely to get a pothole. This sort of technology means that you're also able to fix those potholes. And the interesting thing here was you talked about 7 times the speed. Most repair crews, they talked about 2 or 3 workers would do 20 potholes in a day. This truck with 1 worker, 150 potholes in a day. So quite incredible the difference. But they also talked about the fact that they expect when they do a pothole with traditional methods, they'll be back sometime in the near future because it's just a temporary patch until that whole road's redone.
Yeah.
This is more talked about as a permanent solution rather than we'll put it in and that'll get us out of trouble for a while. So again, it bonds to the hole that's there and seals it up because what you're trying to do with the bitumen on top in particular is to try and keep the water out because once the water gets underneath the surface, that's when you get that bitumen lifting up and that's when you get more potholes. So we are, I remember going to a roads conference, maybe it was 2011, 2012 over in Mount Gambier. And I sat around a bunch of intelligent engineers at a table and I said, the the Cars movie had just come out at the time. And I said, when are we going to get some road patching like on cars? And they all laughed at me. Oh, of course, you've got to do this and this and this and this. Yeah. But that's what you've done forever. Is there another way to do it? And they laughed at me again and said, no, it's silly. We just have to keep doing it this way. But surely as we develop technology, we've got to get better ways to do it because roads are expensive to build and expensive to patch. And we have done it the same way forever, which doesn't mean it's the best way. It might be the best way, but you've got to explore other methods.
For the time being. But yeah, we're looking for innovation.
Yeah, we are.
And that requires someone to think about a problem in a different way.
Yeah, rather than, that's what we do. And we put down the different layers and we get that layer smooth and we keep laying it on there. And then we've got the seal that goes over the top and everything's done. So that's fine. And that'll be $1 million for that kilometre, thanks.
All right, here's a bit of a test for the old people. Remember how big a floppy disk was and how little data it stored. Boy, you must be old if you can do that. It's been interesting to watch, particularly over the last 40 years, how data storage devices have shrunk in size, yet grown in capacity over the years. Thank you, Moore's Law. But a group of Chinese scientists have decided to take this to the absolute extreme. They're now printing QR codes to store data on tiny little ceramic squares that you'd need an electron microscope to see. Matt, as I wrote these words, I was staring at a 16 gig thumb drive on my desk, the size of my knuckle. When I bought that 10 years ago, I thought I held the world in my hands, but clearly...
I can download the internet to this. Look at this.
This is amazing.
So when Masahiro Hara came up with the QR code back in 1994, he was not thinking long-term data storage. He was thinking about car parts on an assembly line and having a good, easy way to track those parts. He wasn't thinking about COVID 2019. He wasn't thinking about scanning into locations. He wasn't thinking about long-term data storage, but people build on other ideas.
This is it. Yeah, technology arrives and then someone comes up with a new purpose for it.
Now, we do have a problem with the data storage we have, because when we store things long-term, and I'm not talking about for a few weeks, when we talk about storing things for tens of years, hundreds of years, if we store it on magnetic media, that sometimes, or will definitely deteriorate over time. We might need to provide some power to it to make sure that that data is staying intact. We might need to rewrite that disk, for example. We might need to replace that entire disk that magnetic media is stored on. We use optical media sometimes. So we've got different types of data, but they've got limitations, and also time frame is one of those limitations. So if we want to store that data for a long time, if we go back to caveman, and they got their chisel and their hammer, their crude engineering technology tools of the day, and they chipped away into a stone and they wrote things in a stone, we've decided that that's the best way to store data, but let's just give us the modern version of that. And that's exactly what they're doing here. So they've got a QR code, officially the world's smallest. If you go and look up the Guinness World Records for the world's smallest QR code, this is it, 1.98 square micrometers. So 10 to the minus 6, 1.98, 10 to the minus 6.
Tiny.
Yeah, tiny. We can't see it with our eyes. Forget getting your phone out and getting a camera and scanning that QR code. You're not going to do that.
And I don't think you'd be able to see it with a normal light microscope either. You need this electron microscope.
Yeah, you need an electron microscope to see something. That 1.98 square micrometers. So I know we like talking non-SI units. So human hair is about 50 micrometers. So this is 1.98 square. So 2 micrometers. So
a
1/25 of a human hair. So that's pretty small. That's the term I normally use. That's pretty small. And so you've got a QR code. So that you think, well, big deal, one QR code. You can store a bit of information, a certain number of characters on one QR code. But when you go that small, then you can store a fair bit of information on a bit more data, or a bit more space. So if we take an A4 sheet, and it's not a sheet of paper, but I'll get to that in a minute, but something the size of A4 sheet, so 210 by 297 millimetres, then you can store on that about 2 terabytes. That's in QR code. So what a fascinating concept. Let's just print a bunch of QR codes so small we can't see them on something the size of an A4 sheet of paper. Now, what are they printing it on? They're printing it on ceramic media. So they're burning it in ceramic media. You're not reusing this. This is long-term data storage. So you're taking things that you want to store long-term. You're literally etching it into a ceramic. So go back to the caveman chiseling. And then you're pretty confident that's going to be stable, A, without power, B, it's going to handle things that magnetic media would not be able to handle. You're going to be able to store things for a long period of time. The minor problem is bit of specialised equipment in creating it and in reading it. That's right.
And do you know what I'm also thinking about? My mind was wandering just then, excuse me, but I was thinking in reading it, something like a bacterium is going to cover up the whole thing. It's like a dog sleeping on your book while you're trying to read your book, right? So any sort of dust or dirt or bacteria that is on this thing, if you're trying to store this data and then read it, you've got to then make sure you keep this clean, very clean.
That's right. You don't want a fly to just do a little deposit on there.
Right, right now.
That's 28 QR codes you just covered up.
If I've got a little bit of bacteria on a page of a book, I can still read it. But but if it's this small to read and you've got to read it, then any tiny little... anything small is going to be a problem.
So it is fascinating. So we're looking at different ways to store data. We're looking at DNA data storage. We've talked about that. Very efficient method of storing data is DNA storage. We've got glass-based optical storage and obviously now QR code storage. So it's something that we are trying to solve because we know that we've got a lot of information. I mean, how many photos of cute cats do we need to store for future generations to see?
Exactly. They won't understand unless they get to see all the photos.
That's right. This defines 2026. These cute cats were the most popular on social media in 2026. So they'll understand more about you and I as humans from centuries in the future by looking at those photos. And they've got to be stored somehow. And so QR code storage, I'm sure that's why they're developing this. But it's fascinating the different ways we're looking at. I don't know what the winner's going to be, but someone's going to come up with the solution that stores it long periods of time, very efficient, and maybe even rewritable. That'd be nice. This one's not rewritable, but rewritable would be nice. But maybe that's a want.
If you're only 2 microns across, just creating more. I mean, I'm sure we've got enough ceramic in the world to go crazy with this.
Right. Okay, I'll give up on that one then.
We'd all be aware that modern warfare is driven by drones these days. Very small devices that move very fast, target very accurately, and are very difficult to defend against. But that is only the start of their capability in a war zone. A new breed of drone is being developed with the capacity to lift a human being. And this makes activities like the extraction of, say, a wounded soldier so much less dangerous and less constrained by factors like difficult terrain, for example. Matt, the implications of this type of technology are enormous, and not only in wartime.
And one of the things that's interesting here is we've got heavy lift cargo drones. We can go and buy them now. If we've got a spare $20,000, we can buy a drone that can lift about 85 kilograms. And that's fantastic for moving some freight around, not long distance. Your drone, you use it for short distance, but that's pretty impressive. We're getting drones that are commercially available that can lift that sort of weight. And then someone said, 85 kilograms, that's not really much different to a person. Maybe we could use that to carry a person. Now, it's not going to pass any of the certifications. They're not designed, there's no redundancy built in there. It's not designed for humans to be on the bottom of that. But if I'm, as you said, in a war field and I'm injured, you've got that golden hour. If you can get to someone within that first hour, the chances of survival are much greater. So if someone said, we could get you out of here, James, we've got this drone that can carry you, but it's not certified, so can you just lay there and die quietly? Or let's put you on this drone that, sure, is not completely certified for human transportation, but it might get you out of there in a shorter period of time. So you'd say, I'll take that option, thanks very much. So not a person to fly, like not someone on the drone to fly it. They can send it in, so there's no risk to someone else to go in and rescue. It can bring some people out. And it's not just wartime. Unfortunately, I hate talking about war. I just think war's a bit silly. But
a lot of technology is born from wartime,
it is, you're right. But even you have an accident, you have a disaster, you have things that happen and you need to get people out of there quickly, then a drone that you strap someone to the bottom of sounds like a reasonable solution to get someone. Just think about a car accident and you want to get an ambulance to pick someone up and get them back to the hospital. I mean, a helicopter is great, but a helicopter is expensive. You've got to get it there. At least you can treat someone while they're on the helicopter, whereas this you can't treat someone while they're on there. But I just think we'll see more and more of this before finally they're certified.
Where my brain went was I remember that it was years ago that a helicopter landed inside a prison. Someone ran out, got in there, and they got out. I mean, they got the guy out. I'm sure they got that guy out. I'm thinking, but this. They've now got a real worry here. They've got security who's going to have to defend themselves against these drones coming over the wall.
So I like that your mind went straight to
get
prison,
rid of Al Capone.
James.
Yeah.
What are you saying? You're planning your great escape one day. But you're right. And just sending that drone in, because a drone getting there pretty quick, and before you know it, there's a guy strapped to the bottom and off it goes. And, take your chances. I reckon if someone can shoot someone down from the air, they're a pretty good shot. So I think a lot of prisoners would take their chances of being shot while they're in the air.
Jeepers.
Because that's going to be a tough shot to take. So that's one. They actually are being used. You're on the right train of thought there. They're actually being used in smuggling operations, both for people and for drugs. So you can have a pretty big shipment. If you have 85 kilos of drugs, that's not a bad shipment for someone and a pretty good way to get it in. And how do you catch someone? If I strap a bunch of drugs to you and put you on a plane, it's a bit obvious that you're carrying them if you get caught. But if it's just a drone, trying to find where that operator is, who the operator is, we've lost that drone, but at least no one's going to prison for it. So, so this is the problem. When we come up with these great ideas, with the best of intentions, someone out there is going to say,
There
hey,
are naughty people who have got naughty ideas.
Stop being naughty, people. Use these things for really good reasons.
Yeah, extraction from catastrophes and disasters and whatnot, and from war zones. I think it'll be amazing to see how this carries out.
What about when we get it to the stage it's certified and they're safe for humans, that I choose to buy a little runaround car for $30,000 or $25,000, or I buy a little personal quadcopter for $20,000 and I just get straight to work with that and come home.
My mind went to the old jetpack. You know how we thought we'd all be flying around with jetpacks. Well, now we're just going to grab hold of this drone, and you get.
It does seem a bit safer because a jetpack, you can just imagine. Okay, it's pushing enough energy down for you to go up. You only need to get it off vertical a bit, and suddenly you're not a jetpack, you're a projectile.
Yeah, you're a projectile. Yeah.
Whereas at least with drones, they're pretty good at staying.
Yeah, they're very stable, and
yeah,
the way they're going these days. Yeah. Yeah, fantastic. Amazing.
Yeah, so anyway, keep an eye out for some of those.
That's all the party we have for you here today, folks. We've run out of party, and now it's time for me to have a little nap on the couch. Thanks for another cracking Tech Talk, Matt.
That's right. I was going to show you this cool thing on my phone. Oh, you can't see it from that angle. If only I had the ability to turn the screen.
Pass me your
phone,
Matt.
Not on privacy.
And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for taking part in our little jaunt today. Sure, you had the easy bit, but we're truly grateful nonetheless. Thanks for tuning in to Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson once again. My name is James Eddy. I'm your host, and I look forward to your company via fibre optic cable or airborne radio wave or even microwaves. We're really appreciative having you tune in each week to our tidy little podcast, and we hope to catch you again next week. Until then, take care, and we'll see you when we see you.